today my guest is Justin Ryburn. He is with Kentik, Field Chief Technology Officer, which he has mentioned to me that not a lot of people know what he does. So that's always a good conversation to have. So we are going to be talking about that. You're also a global leader, a startup investor, a coach, and advisor. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have a good conversation today. So, Mr. Justin, please introduce yourself and your company and tell us what you do today. How does your day look like normally?
Sure. Yeah, I'll get into just in a minute describing what a field CTO does, but just a quick background. I've been in IT for about 25 years, got a degree in computers and business, both. So I've always really enjoyed both the technology side of things, but also how they can apply to solving business problems.
Mm-hmm.
In college, realized I didn't want to write code for a living. That really, while I enjoy technology, that's not what I wanted to do for a living. So I happened to be going to college about the time the internet was taking off. It's going to date me, but I really fell in love with the internet and with all things networking as a discipline within IT, and have made a career of that. And about, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I discovered that there was this role called solutions engineering, sales engineering, systems engineering. There's different terms for it. But essentially, most technology vendors, and especially the networking technology vendors, have a person who understands the technology really well, but is paired up with a sales rep that goes out in the field, talks to the customers about that technology, and helps them be successful. So it really married my love for technology and my love for business. And so I've pretty much been doing that in one form or fashion ever since, which brings me to Kentik. I ran our SE team for about 5 years. And then 2 years ago, we created a field CTO role and team. Every company, every field CTO I talk to, their role is slightly different. But I'll
Mm-hmm.
just kind of explain what mine is and just caveat it that it can be different at different companies. But me and my team really focus on 5 key areas. So brand
Mm-hmm.
awareness and thought leadership. So we do a lot of podcasts, a lot of blogs, a lot of webinars. We go out to a lot of industry events and do public speaking engagements. So, just kind of getting the word out about Kentik and about our brand and who we are. So that's number one. Number two is big deal support. So we work with a lot of our sales reps and our sales teams, helping them with their pre-sales deals.
Mm-hmm.
Our role is typically higher up in the organization, where we're meeting with the executives at our customers, helping them understand the bigger picture of what Kentik can do to help them versus just the features that are within the product that the SEs are working with them on. Then number 3 in our priorities is BD and business development and alliances. So we work with our head of that department or VP of that department to help him build out a strategy on what other vendors have products similar that we should integrate with. That
Mm-hmm.
the two solutions working together will help bring more value to our customers. Number 4 is channel support. So the way we actually sell our product is through channel resellers.
Okay.
And so we work with our channel team to do a lot of trainings and workshops for our channel partners so that they can understand our product and get up to speed when we release new things on how those things work and what the value to the end customer is. So that's number 4. And then number 5 is new product introduction. So as we bring new product to market, my team is the first to do a lot of the early demos of those new features and that new functionality. That way we can collect the feedback very quickly, work with our product team to polish it as it's getting ready for release, and then help cross-train the field team as they get ready to sell that product at scale.
So everything essentially comes back to client satisfaction and how you're going to support your team as they build out systems and they help the client achieve the end goal. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But you were saying that you were able to blend your love for business and your love for technology.
Mhm.
So do you have a little bit of a sales role in the company as well, or do you do mostly the techie side of it?
Well, I report into the sales team. So I
Mm-hmm.
report into basically what we call the chief revenue officer. We have a different title
Okay.
for it here at Kentik, but that's what it's called at most companies. So I'm part of the sales organization. I'm peers with the leader of sales. So I work very closely with him and helping his team be successful. So definitely it's a tech portion of the sales team, I guess is the best way to
There we
answer that.
go. So because that's usually one thing, right? When the person is more on the tech side, they're not on the sales side so much. And then
Mhm.
when you're on the sales side, you're like, okay, let the team take care of anything related
Mhm.
to the tech world. So you're kind of a mix of the both worlds. So that's always
Yep.
fun. So, whenever it comes down to the business development, what have you seen in the major shifts in the industry lately?
Yeah, I think AI is like the big thing. I think that's disrupting every industry, and
It
networking
is.
is no different. There's a couple interesting things that AI is disrupting. So, the way that we have actually built networks in the past inside of like a data center where all that data is being processed has had to change in order to build a lot of these big data centers that companies like Google and Microsoft and Meta, we hear about them building, and the government's investing large sums of
Mhm.
money in that type of infrastructure. They're built in a very different way. And so it's been kind of exciting for those of us who are in networking because we've built networks in the very same way for a long time until AI
Right.
came around. And then it had some really interesting demands on what network design looks like. And so there's some really interesting changes that have come about as a result of a lot of the investment in AI workload training and inference and so forth. And then also, like specific to what Kentik does, we're a network observability platform. And
Mhm.
so for a long time, the state of the art was collecting data and setting thresholds on it and getting proactive alerts when there's a threshold crossing. AI has really changed the game for that because the large language models like your chat GPTs and so forth from OpenAI are really good at processing large volumes of data and helping you understand how to make sense of that data and helping you
Mhm.
figure out what's actually broken in your network environment. It's still pretty early in its evolution, but it's been a really big advancement, and it'll be interesting to see where that all goes.
Has it turned into a love and hate relationship, or is it mostly a love relationship with AI and ChatGPT right now?
It's a little of both. It's hard to keep up with everything that's going on. I spend, part of my role requires me to be on top of what's going on with the latest technology and how people are applying them. So,
It's
you know,
almost
I,
impossible.
it's almost impossible to keep up with it. Almost every day, somebody will mention a model like, okay, I have to go look that
Yeah.
up. I haven't heard of that one. Don't know
You
what it
need to
does
be
or
an
what it's,
AI to keep up with AI.
yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, yeah. And, a lot of the stuff when we're applying it, we realize, oh, well, that looks like a hallucination, but it's because we didn't prompt it correctly or it wasn't trained on the right data set. So it doesn't actually
Mhm.
know the answer to the question that was asked. So it's not perfect. It's not magic. It's just
Correct.
learning how it actually works, how it actually quote unquote thinks is really key to being successful with it.
Yeah, and I truly believe that one of the main areas that people need to understand about AI is that it's not just going to shoot answers at you if you're not giving it the right command, right?
Hmm.
It works off commands. What are you telling it to do? And essentially that's what it's going to spit back at you with the best answer that it can find. But if it's just random information that you're inputting into the system, when it replies to you, it may not make sense. So especially if you're in the tech world and this is what you live and this is what you go by, essentially learning the right commands and learning the right keywords that are going to give you the best information that's going to take you to the next level to really understand the machine, right? And everything that it
Hmm.
could give you. I believe that's really important to touch base on too.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And it's really not that much different for those of us who are a little older. When Google search and some of these others first came out, it was the same problem you had. If you went out and tried to do a search for something and the keywords that you put in your search were not very good, the results you got were
Right.
not very good. They weren't really what you were ultimately looking for, right? Because it can't read your mind, right? So you have to give it the right prompts and ask the right questions to get the right answers. And AI is kind of taken that to the next level with more advanced questions that you can ask of it. But again, a lot of it comes down to the prompt you ask it, and also knowing what it's trained on. So, like, one of the
Absolutely.
things that I frequently even personally forget is that the free version of ChatGPT, the last amount of data it was trained on as far as current events was like beginning of last year, or well, I guess the end of last year. So like if you're trying to
Oh,
ask it like, hey, what do you know about the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey engagement?
engagement.
It's going to make something up because it doesn't have that in its training data, right?
That
It
is
doesn't
so
know about that,
interesting.
right? But like Gemini and some of these other models that are trained on more recent current events will do a much better job at answering those questions because they're trained on the data, which is the current events and the news cycles
Mm-mm.
that Chat GPT, at least the free version, isn't trained on.
Correct.
So that's where knowing your models and knowing what their data they're trained on is going to help you get better answers out of whichever AI you're trying to use for whatever your use case is.
And how has your company transitioned with remote? I know, of course, everyone went to remote during COVID, and then some companies have decided to go back to its standard model of having people in office again. Some are still doing hybrid. What's going on for you guys at Kentik?
Yeah. So interestingly, when COVID hit, we were a remote first company. We did have an office in San Francisco that maybe 40 to 50% of our staff went into on a somewhat regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
We leased that office space when COVID hit. We didn't renew the lease because there was no point. And we just haven't gone back. So we're a 100% remote company. We do have a pretty good footprint of folks that happen to be based in the Bay Area, but we don't have an actual office there. We just rent space by the day whenever we need it for meetings, whether with it internal or with customers. It has pros and cons, but it's worked overall pretty well for us. It allows us to be pretty flexible, pretty nimble, allows us to hire people wherever they live. So we can get
Mm-hmm.
access to the right skill set regardless of geography,
Right.
which it has really kind of unlocked a larger pool of talent for what we're looking for when we hire.
Absolutely. And there's also a lot more growth potential in that because, again, it goes back to exactly what you were saying. You're not limiting yourself to what type of talent and how much talent do I have around me. It's if you fit the criteria for what we're looking for and you are the best fit for the team, absolutely come on over. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it in a lot of different industries as well. Insurance is one of the industries that actually went remote and never went back
Mm-hmm.
to the traditional way of doing it. It's funny because I was listening to someone and they said, "Oh yeah, I was gonna talk to them face to face," but they meant virtual face to face.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the modern face to face. It's
Mm-hmm.
so I just thought that was funny because it's how we do things. It's how we know each other by. For whenever it comes to working remotely, the only thing that you're missing is that true connection of knowing a person's character, right? Knowing a person's personality to know if they're having a bad day or not, and knowing and getting personal with someone. Because, of course, whenever you're working remotely, you know the person from here on up,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And you'll see the person in person and you're like, you're tall, you're short. And you're like, I didn't think you were like that because you're always seeing them in a frame. So that's one of the things that I believe working remotely has taken away from industries. It's just that personal touch and having that kind of relationship and culture. Really, I do think that it affects the culture overall. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen that some in our culture, right? Because to your point, like when you've actually met someone in person, maybe had lunch with them, had a coffee with them, spent some time with them in the office, you get to know them on a little bit more of a personal level and you give them a little
Hmm.
bit of the benefit of the doubt, right? You come at conversations assuming positive intent. Right.
Yes.
When all of your interactions are over, we're a Slack company. So we do Slack, we do email, we do Zoom meetings. So, like you said, you get to see a little bit of their face. So
Hmm.
you can pick up a little bit of body language there, but it's really hard to build that rapport and to come to all of those interactions assuming positive intent. So then people start to think, well, they didn't respond to me or their answer was very short with me or, whatever. And they start to all these like kind of disagreements, debates kind of start to fester more than they would if it was like, if we were in person, just go in and talk to that person face to face, shake
Right.
their hand, and you probably could
Hmm.
work this out much faster instead of letting it go on for weeks and weeks for people who are frustrated with one another.
Absolutely.
You know, the
I could
other
completely see
the other
that.
thing that I miss from having office space is just the ad hoc conversations, right?
Hmm.
Being able to like pop into someone's cube or borrow a conference room for half an hour and whiteboard a concept and just be like, hey,
Yep.
what are you working on these days? Oh, I'm working on this project, slowly, but it's kind of a secondary priority, but it's this. It's like, oh man, I've been thinking about trying to do the same thing. Let me jump in and help you
Huh?
with that, right? Those kind of conversations don't happen nearly
Spontaneous
as easily.
brainstorming.
Yeah. They don't happen nearly as often when you're remote. And it's probably more important for like companies that are startups that are innovating or companies that have a lot of creative talent that need to bounce ideas off each other.
Hmm.
If the day job and the job description is very static, follow this process, do this thing, and you can do that thing from home, it's probably less important because collaboration with your coworkers isn't nearly as important. But for a lot of tech companies that are building something, that are innovating, that are growing and trying to collaborate and be creative, it can be a detriment. And so what we've tried to
Absolutely.
do to balance that is have periodic get-togethers throughout the year so that it's not 100% remote.
Good. Yes, absolutely. I do believe that's very important. Sometimes getting together for Christmas, just finding a reason to get the team together is definitely something that I have seen other industries do. You had mentioned that right now, what the industry is doing, because not a lot of people are graduating in your field of work. What the
Hmm.
industry is doing is getting tenured people in the industry, per se, with new graduates and kind of making that come together. So, can you tell me a little bit more about that? I'm actually very curious about it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the degrees that most people in technology disciplines are graduating with, they're things around like AI or, development of software, cloud, hyperscaler technologies. And so not a lot of people are choosing networking as a discipline, but deep knowledge of networking technologies and how they work is going to be important for the foreseeable future. And so those of us who, like myself, who've been around for quite a while and are going to retire in the next 10 to 20 years, once we retire, we need another generation of network engineers to backfill some of those roles, right? And so we started realizing this as more tenured people that we have this problem that we need to help solve for. And so I'm part of a mentorship committee, and the thing we're trying to do is get people who are later in career hooked up with either new college grads or early in career people to get them excited about networking careers and kind of coach them and give them some advice on how to be successful in those roles, what kind of things to learn, what questions to ask, so on and so forth to be successful in those types of roles.
And do you think something that is impacting that is because people really believe that AI will take over and there won't be a job for them if they go into networking and so forth?
Yeah, and I think even before AI really took on, OpenAI kind of put a spotlight on AI and the technology. The hyperscalers, Google and Microsoft and Amazon, when they started building out their clouds, they do a great job of abstracting the network layer for
Mm-hmm.
application developers. And so that made this difficult too, where people think the network doesn't matter anymore. But I can tell you from having talked to a lot of our customers and a lot of people who are adopting cloud that yeah, it's abstracted, but if you don't actually know how it works and you don't know how to troubleshoot it when it breaks, you're in trouble, right? They have to pull in networking people in their organization who understand it at a little better level than most of the application folks do. Because even in the cloud, you got to be able to troubleshoot. You got to make sure it was set up correctly, configured correctly, and so forth in order for things to work. And when they break, it's hard to troubleshoot if you don't have that skill set.
What else do you think is an industry-wide issue right now that would be unique to your business and unique to what you do?
The other challenge we're facing, at least in the US, is a power consumption problem. As we build more of these data centers for AI, the biggest problem that they've got is access to power. I talked to a lot of the companies that are building these data centers, and some of them are having to build them off grid while they wait for the grid to catch up to power. So they're generating their own power through solar or through running diesel generators 24 hours a day, which is not environmentally friendly, but it's what the capacity demands to get these things going. So that's another area of, I'll say, broader technology that I think if I were telling a young person to consider studying is like nuclear, right? I think we may come back as a society to considering nuclear as a power source because we can't get enough from coal and some of these cleaner energies like wind and solar to be able to keep up with the demand of AI. And so you're already starting to see some of the power companies and some of the hyperscalers investing in nuclear technology to see if we can do it safely. We obviously don't want the humanitarian disasters that we had in the past with core meltdowns and radiation leakage.
Yep.
Can we do it? It's 2025. Does the technology exist to be able to do it and do it safely where we don't have those type of disasters? And if the answer is yes, I think we're going to see a huge increase in demand for nuclear power going forward.
That is actually a very interesting point. Like with the amount of things that are being developed and being invented and being put together, it's like when they started mining crypto and mining all of these
Mm-hmm.
things and they needed to get massive computers in order to do it. It kind of
Mm-hmm.
reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually, a lot of those machines that were mining crypto have been repurposed for AI workload training.
Was it really?
Yep. Yep. And a lot of them were used for gaming. NVIDIA had an entire data center that they used to use for online gaming that they've repurposed all of that for AI workload training. So a lot of the hardware
Wow.
that was purchased for crypto and for gaming is being repurposed into AI training because there's just so much of a demand for it. So,
That is very interesting. Yeah,
mhm.
they're having to adapt. There's no way
Yep.
but to adapt and include AI in your day to day, or you're going to fall behind pretty quickly.
Yeah.
In my opinion, AI will not give you time to adjust. And right now it's just like a pivot mindset.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep up with it? What can you use? And it's not going to be perfect, but it is very rapid pace. And even the next generation is not keeping up with it. Because ask a teenager today, they don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yep.
know about gaming, they know
Yep.
about their own little thing, but even the new generation, they're a little bit clueless about everything that it does. It is concerning. It is something that there are no regulations for it. You have to be very careful with how you feed it, how you train it, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of prompts you're giving it, because again, it's a computer. There's no emotion. You give me data and I'm going to give it right back to you. It's something that I did here that really impacted me is we're training the computer and then the computer is going to start training us because you're asking ChatGPT, give me a sweet nickname. Like, how is my day going today? How should I feel about this?
Mm-hmm.
And the computer is telling you how you should be feeling, and you're taking it for its word.
Yeah. Yeah. And interesting, I don't know if you've seen this news article, but the interesting example is like, I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Anthropic had trained on books they had actually purchased. So the company had actually purchased the rights to some published works, to some books,
Huh?
and trained their model on that. And the publisher sued them for that and has gone to court. We'll see how this court case plays out. But the question is, are they allowed to train their model on it when they purchased it? Because now, the person who wrote those books has copyrights on that. They're worried
Right?
about people not buying the books and reading the books, but actually going to ChatGPT and saying, you know, tell me about Of Mice and Men. What's it about?
Mm-hmm.
What's the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
storyline? Whatever, and not having to actually consume the content. So there's a whole lot of really interesting
What is your
policy
take
and
on it? What would
governance
you
that
say?
I'm not a lawyer, so I try not to play one on TV, but it's one thing if they're training on content that just happens to be on the internet that they didn't pay for, but when they've actually spent the money to buy the content, I feel like that's fair game for them to be able to train in their model. And maybe the publishers are going to have to come up with two different licensing models. One, if you're an individual buying the book for your own usage, and one, if you're a technology company training a model on it. I don't know, so that they can
Wow.
price it at two different prices.
So, for the next 12 to 24 months, is your company looking at the different approach for certain things, not only AI, because of course we already touched on remote, when it comes to new business acquisition, when it comes to how you're going to keep that communication going with your current client, because you did say that you have a channel support and you have the business development side and you're also supporting your team alongside your clients. And how is that all coming together? And how is new business acquisition happening for you guys? What do you think is going to be changing in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, still most of it comes back to AI, right? And it's us using AI more efficiently internally for day jobs. We now have a recurring meeting that we just started spinning up where each department head is talking to each other about this is how my department's leveraging AI in our day-to-day work
Huh?
focus. So whether it's, outreach to customers, right? Being able to do better targeted outreach by having AI come and tell us like, hey, this company just did another round of funding, or they lost their biggest customer, or this is the challenges they're facing, so that we can do targeted messaging. Like, here's how we can help you with the problems that you're facing in the business, right? So there's a lot of just really fascinating AI use cases that we're going to be able to use across marketing and sales and of course, our engineering team and how they build code, our product team and how they this customers request for feature enhancements. There's a whole, almost every department has a use case for using AI to help us be more efficient. But yeah, to your question about customer acquisition, need to be more efficient with the staff we have so that we can grow without having to completely explode our headcount. So we're
Mm-hmm.
hopeful that better leveraging AI is going to help us with some of that. We're still going to have to grow. We're still going to have to augment staff, grow at the rate we want to grow. But AI is definitely going to help us not have to invest quite as much in headcount.
Absolutely. And is that something that's on the table already? Those are discussions that are ongoing with the team internally, or because there are so many options, you feel like it also creates sort of a halt because you're not making decisions based on everything that's out there.
That's part of the reason we have this new working group to collaborate on this, because it is changing all the time, and there's all kinds of brainstorming that can be done. Like our engineering team is really having good luck with Claude as a AI model for code development.
Mm-hmm.
So they've already started having it look at like bug tickets that come in from customers with defects in the
Good. Uh-huh.
software and be able to take a first pass at making a suggested fix and remediation for those bugs. It's amazing how quickly Claude is able to actually understand our code syntax and our structure and be able to suggest bug fixes quickly. We still, of course, have a manual person that could
Trust
use
you,
it.
but not
I trust you.
100%.
Yeah, but not 100%. Right. Versus, our marketing team, a lot of the content that they're putting out, they're having AI help them, whether it's with video editing, with podcast editing, whatever. They may be using different AI, probably are going to use different AI models for that type of a use case, right? So it really comes down to the use case that the department has and what they need, which model is going to work best for them. And again, like you said, ask me in 6 months, it'll probably be completely different, right? It's just changing so rapidly and so fast.
And is that one of the metrics that you believe the team is most focused on right now on improving when it comes to getting back to clients, how quickly you can do it and how quickly you can do that client acquisition and onboard them, set the expectation and automate that as much as possible? Is that one of the priorities right now?
Yeah, for like our customer success team and to some degree our engineering team, like we have SLAs around ticket response times and bug fix times and stuff. So I wouldn't say we have AI metrics per se. Like you have to use AI this percentage of your time. It's just a matter of we're trying to meet the other metrics that we have set for the business for sales targets, for retention rates, for customer satisfaction, for SLA and response times without having to add a ton of headcount in the business as we continue to grow. Because as a startup, we expect to continue to grow our revenue
Mm-hmm.
year over year. So most startups invest pretty heavily in headcount to do that historically, but with AI, hopefully we can reduce some of that and need less funding to get the same growth.
Absolutely. Less overhead. It does take away on one side and it does improve on the other, which is absolutely amazing. And this is what these conversations are all about. It's about what is working, what is not working, what are you guys are finding as experts in the field, right? What are you finding that is going to be extremely important for the industry? But we can't forget that 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, we're still going to need actual humans in this field, which is the reason that we cannot let go and we cannot compromise on the education. Having people become who you are today, right? In your field, we cannot heavily rely on the computer to do it because at the end of the day, a human is a human. We all have our place and it comes down to that. Is there anything that you would like to say for people who will be watching us? Anything that you find important? Again, you could be talking to someone who's been in the industry for 10, 15 years, but you could also be speaking with someone who just graduated, right? And they're trying to decide if this was a good decision or if AI is going to be taking their place and they're not going to have a job 5 years down the road. What would you say to those people?
Oh, I actually just had someone ask me that yesterday. They were a developer and they were asking, like, well, should I get into pre-sales? Should I get into, sales engineering? Because, I think my job may go away with AI. And what I told them was, I'm like, if you want to make the transition in job function because you find some interesting aspects of the combination of business and technology and so forth, that's one thing. But I wouldn't run away from software development just because AI is coming and is here. I'd learn how to leverage AI to be more efficient, to be, to write code, better code faster, to be more efficient, lean into that and use that. Right. Which kind of takes me, I guess, to the higher level point I always try to tell people that I'm mentoring and coaching is you should approach careers in technology with a growth mindset. Right.
Mm.
Yes, it's hard to keep up with all the changes. It's changing every day, but that's actually what gets me excited about technology. That's what gets me out of bed every day is I really love that. If I had to get up and do the same job over and over again every day with no change in what my day-to-day function looked like, nothing was new, was to be learned, for me personally, I wouldn't enjoy that career. That's
Right.
why I chose technology as a career, is because I love to learn and play with new things. And so hopefully people who are choosing careers as technologies, that's what they like. And I encourage people to like be a lifetime learner and constantly be learning about new things and playing with new things.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing all of your insights. That was great. Absolutely loved everything that we covered here today. So it was a pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you, Justin, for sharing your wisdom, your story, and these powerful reminders about the importance of having the next generation leverage AI. For our listeners, if today's episode resonated, don't forget to follow Justin Ryburn on social media and check out Kentik. And if you're a consultant, founder, or business leader looking to optimize your systems and create a business that supports your life, not the other way around, connect with us at Pulse AI Solutions. I'm Deborah D'Souza, and this has been the Consulting Code, the Expert Series. Until next time, keep leading with intention.